Okay. I want to talk today a little bit about Sheidim and Ruach Ra, but I want to explain to you the thought process, how we got there a little bit. So back in the day when we went through the inyan of song, we spoke about some different songs that have like interesting makairis that come from, important or different backgrounds. And I came across a song that was traditionally sung by the Litvish people. It's a Litvish song, big Messiah by the Litvaks. They sing it in Volozhny Yeshiva. They sang it on Shavuos, and other Rosh Yeshivas sang it other times. The B'Sez Zalman used to sing it. I'm sorry, 1 second. Today's shir is sponsored by Refuah Shalema Teva Bas Peril. Okay, now back to the song. So in Volozhin, they sang this song on Shavuos. B'Sez Zalman and Rav Shach used to sing it on Motzei Yom Kippur. Baruch Ber sang it a certain time of year. I think anyone who lived in Philly could tell me. I think Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky makes a kiddush in his house on, I believe, the second day of Shavuos, and he sings the song with this song. Now, the song is to the words of Aval Anachnu Amcha B'nei Brisecha B'nei Avram Ahavcha Shenishbat Lei Bahar Maria Zer Yitzchak Yechidei Shenekad Lagav Mizbeach. Those are the lyrics for the song. You could actually find it on YouTube. There's people who have it set to music. B'Sez Zalman, in the book about B'Sez Zalman, there's musical notes for the song. So if you want to be able to play it, you can copy the musical notes. It's a song that has a big Litvish Messiah. Now, the makar for the song is the famous story with the Ger Tzedek of Vilna. Now, the Ger Tzedek of Vilna, I think everyone's basically familiar with the story, but I'll say it over just a little. The Ger Tzedek of Vilna's yahrzeit is the second day of Shavuos. That's the day that he was put to death, which is why the song was sang in Volozhin on Shavuos. That's why the song was sang. And basically the story is as follows. There was a boy who grew up in Poland. His name was Valentin Potocki, a non-Jew. Now the Potocki family in Congress, Poland was the wealthiest family. They were the Rockefellers of the day. There's actually a palace, like a castle, that we still have in, escapes me now this minute which city it's in a city in Poland. We have it. It's well preserved, a big, huge palace that belonged to the Potocki family. It has the coat of arms on the gate, like of the Potocki family. They were very well known, like the Rockefellers of the day. Now they had a child of the family, Valentin, who was studying to become a Catholic minister. He went to a school to become a minister in Paris, and over time he became disillusioned with the religion, and he became more interested in Judaism. He got a hold of a Tanakh. He began to learn a little bit, and before you know it, Valentin Potocki became Avram ben Avram, and he became a Ger Tzedek. Now he moved from Paris, which didn't have a sizable Jewish population, to Vilna. He came to Vilna, and the Goyim became aware of him. Now in Vilna, Valentin Potocki was acted like a parish, like part of the Kilas of Prushim. He lived like a parish. He was davening, he was learning, he was unmarried, he sat in shul all day and all night, and he learned, and people would bring him food so that he didn't have to leave the shul. Now the Goyim became aware of his existence, and the Goyim told him that Vilna is a famous city, it's a big city, it's going to be easy to be found out over here, people are going to know about you, it's probably not smart to stay here, go elsewhere. So he goes to a small town, Ahila I think it's called, a small Lithuanian town in the outskirts of Vilna, where he settles down over there, and he was an anomaly. He was something that was interesting about him, because he obviously spoke Yiddish with a heavy accent and Polish fluently, and people knew that something was strange, but he sat in the shul like a parish and he learned. And there was a tailor who lived in the town of Ahila, who had a son who was a little Vilda kid, a little mechutzif, and the son used to come to shul always and make noise and yell and scream, and it used to get the Ger Tzedek, or Avram and Avram, upset. He was trying to learn here. And one time, out of frustration, he grabbed the kid by his ear and he schlepped him out of the Beis Medrash and he threw him out. This kid went home to his father, who was infuriated, the tailor, and the tailor said, "What, this interloper, this ger is going to take my child by the ear and throw him out?" And he went to the local authorities and he turned him in. He says, that ger you're looking for, that missing person, went back to the milk car and I found him. He's in the small village over here, you could have him. They come, they take Avram and Avram, and he's arrested. Now the law at the time was that someone who converted would be put to death, and he was sentenced to death. Now he came from obviously a rich, well-connected family, and they began to try to, make different machinations to free him. They spoke to this one, to that one, and every opportunity that they presented to him, he turned it down. He was choosing to be Meiser Nefesh. He didn't want to be saved. Meaning they presented him that he could just pretend for 5 seconds, say that you recant what you did, and then we'll build you. His mother told him, it's brought down, his mother told him that you can recant for 5 seconds, we'll free you, I'll build you a palace somewhere in the forest, and I'll provide you with whatever you need, svarim and food, and you sit and learn for the rest of your life. You can be frum, you can be whatever you want, just tell them you're not, and they'll free you and you'll go. But he said no, b'shem Eifin, he wants to be Meiser Nefesh, he wouldn't take the outs that were given to him. Now, so supposedly it's brought different nuschas of the story bring down that the Goyin offered the Ger Tzedek that he could sneak him out with Sheamus, he could free him. The Ger Tzedek said no, he's not looking for that, until the day arrives, the day that he's going to be killed, which is the second day of Shavuos. Now legend has it that the Ger Tzedek was slowly marching his way down the street, singing this song that he made up. Aval anachnu amcha b'nei brischa. He was singing the song as he danced down the street, until the Goyin poked his head out of his window, and he told him, Avram, leif schnell. Don't waste time, run to the Beis HaMikdash. Run, do it already. And the Chavetz Chaim used to explain that Avram ben Avram had a shayla lahalacha. He wasn't sure, is he supposed to be running with his lahavas to do the mitzvah of Mesiras Nefesh, or is he supposed to be saving Chayei Shah? Hagambi's going to die in a few minutes, but every minute is valuable. Should he be preserving time? And the Goyin was giving him psak, that now that it's already set, and you're going to be dying to Hashem, leif schnell. This is the mitzvah saying now. It's a story that's replete with a ton of legends in the literature. The Briska say it over, the Talmidei Agra said it over, the Chavetz Chaim used to say it over every year, B'chanan said it over, Baruch Ber said it over. It's a very Litvish story with all these different legends attached to it. Supposedly the Goyin visited him in jail once, and he saw he was crying. And the guy told him, what are you crying about? It's a zaschus, Kiddush Hashem, the opportunity you have to make such a Kiddush Hashem, you should be happy. To which he told him, yeah, Vada, I'm happy about the Kiddush Hashem, I don't have any children. And I would love to leave over, some sort of mascaras after I'm gone. And the guy told him, the pasuk says, Ani Rishon v'ani Achron. And the guy said, Ani Rishon l'mishayin le'av, Ani Achron l'mishayin le'banim. Hashem says, I'll be the children for you. And the guy was happy with that. And there's many more legends that attach it. The coat of arms of the Patatsky family that you could see in the castle still escapes me. In the castle is like a vertical line with 3 intersecting horizontal lines. So like 6 prongs stick out of the vertical line. Instead of being 6, which would be symmetrical, there's only 5 prongs. 1 is missing. Legend has it that after one of the sons of the family converted as a punishment to the family, they were forced to remove 1 prong on their coat of arms. Like something from you went wrong. They were forced to remove a prong. There's many legends. A lot of Chaykrim like to say the story was made up, obviously. We don't know that it is or isn't made up. I could just tell you that in some newspapers from England in the early 1700s, around the Tkufa when the Ger Tzedek story would have happened, bring a story of a non-Jew who converted from a wealthy Christian family without any names and was put to death for doing this. Now the Church of England was competing with the Catholic Church, and it was in their best interest to bring stories that made the Catholic Church look bad. So it's other Goyim bringing stories about other Goyim. There's no Yidden involved in this storytelling. So it's a similar story. Rabbi Yaakov Emden, who's someone from that Tkufa, in the sefer of his called Magid Dvar of Yaakov, brings a similar story. So there's certainly old, brought down. There's certainly old mascaras of such a story brought down. Exactly if every single detail is true or not true, and exactly how the legends play out, that I can't tell you. But Chalaifin, what we have from it is this song, this Malazhin and Nigin of Aval Anachnu Amcha, that was sung by all the Litvish Shivas at Itim Tchufim. Now, that's the first time that I took note of the story. Now, there's a second unique Nakuda that comes out of the story that I want to focus on. But just by way of background, let's first just give the groundwork of Sheidim and Ruach Ra and etc. and Halacha, and then we'll circle back to how the Ger Tzedek has to do with that. Now, so off the bat, it's Yadua that the existence of Sheidim and Ruach Ra and all these things that can't be explained and can't be understood, the existence and if they're powerful or not, is a Greisa Machlekes Rishonim. The Rambam in every one of his Svarim, in Moreh Nevuchim twice, in Pirush Mishnayos once, in Yad HaChazaka twice. The Rambam reiterates again every time that this is something, believing in Sheidim and Ruach Ra and Kishef and Kmeis and a whole list is the derech of Sheidim. It's the derech of silly people. Nashim v'amaratzim, he calls it in one place, and it's obviously false. And it was just that it was a populist belief at the time, and that's where the Torah addresses it. And the Torah says not to follow it. Tamim tiyam Hashem alekecha, Because it was a populist belief, it was something that everyone believed. But of course, it's nothing, it doesn't exist. And this the Rambam reiterates many, many, many times. Now, the Rosh HaCholkim al Rambam, let's say, is the Ramban. But it's not really the Ramban, it's really many, many, many Rishonim. The Ramban is, let's call it, the popular view. The Rosh HaCholkim is the Ramban. The Ramban in Chumash, several times, when the Psukim talk about Sheidim and Gedi and Sheidim and Leisizbechu and Menachshim, the Ramban every time will hammer home that if Chazal talk about Sheidim and Ruach Ra, like the Gemara is replete with it, it's to be understood at face value. You don't change it doesn't mean something different, it's to be understood at face value. And if Chazal say it exists, and that's it. Ad Kedei Kach, that I came across this, I'll just, there's very few speeches from the Rishonim. Giving speeches in shul is a relatively new phenomenon. Rabbanim didn't give speeches till pretty recently. There's one speech that we have from the Ramban. What do you say? Yeah, no, Drush Haran is not speeches. Drush Haran is he wrote down like missives. He gave them out. They were biksav. They weren't prepared. There's very few things that were given as a speech. The Ramban, famously in 1261, was forced to debate a Christian in front of King James of Aragon. Ramban wins the debate, but ultimately loses the debate because he's forced to leave, etc. That story we'll save that for a different time. And the Ramban published a few svarim in the shadow of that debate. He published a sefer called Sefer HaGeula, Ma'amar Vikuach. We'll save that for a different time. But the Seif HaMaisa was that over there, the Shabbos after the debate was complete, King James of Aragon came to the shul in Barcelona where the Ramban was the Rav, and he gave a speech from the pulpit. And he gave a speech to, even though the Ramban Ki'ilu won the debate and showed that Christianity was false, I'm telling you that Christianity is right. And he gave a drasha to the masses. And he said, but I'll tell you, never before have I seen someone so justify so well something so false. He said of the Ramban. Like, good job, you did a great job, but of course it's shtasim, and here's how it has to be. And he came to give a speech in shul. Now after he left, we have this, the Ramban wrote this down himself. The Ramban wrote that after he left, he felt there was a chayiv and a chrayas on him to lecture the Olam about Torah True Hashkafa. Because they had just been, the king coming to shul was like a showstopper, and he just told them that it's not so, and these are simple folk. And the Ramban wanted to reestablish all the Yisayis of Yiddishkeit. The Maimer is called Maimer Teres Hashem Tamima, which is to explain the supremacy of the Torah. And the Ramban writes it down, it's in Kol Kisser Ramban. But literally, like right out the gate, in the beginning of Maimer Teres Hashem Tamima, right after Ramban discusses Moifsim and Yitzias Mitzrayim and Har Sinai, the Ramban then morphs into Sheidim and Kishif. And like as mamash, like a plank of the Yisayis Emunah, says something that's muskar in the Torah is to be understood at its face value. He says, and I was once struggling with a certain Havana and a Psedin and Sheidim, until I went to talk to the people who are Baki Bazar, the people who practice it still, and they explained to me such and such a prat. The Ramban is writing himself that he was consulting with people in his day, practitioners of it in his day, to figure out how to do it. The Ramban writes, he strongly critiques the Rambam. So this is you say this thing of existence before you start anything else. Does it exist? Does it not exist? Probably the harshest critique of the Rambam's Deya is. Let me just note one thing. The Ramban's Deya that it's to be understood at face value, and that all these things that are muskar in the Gemara, Ruach Ra and Sheidim and etc. exist in their plain meaning, in their plain way, is the Deya that's held by most Rishayim, and is the Deya that makes it to Shulchan Aruch many, many, many times. There are many seifim in Shulchan Aruch that can only be understood by understanding these Gemaras Kipshuta. You have to be chayshish for certain things, certain sakanas, certain chshashes. The Shulchan Aruch is replete. There's got to be, 20. I'm not attempting to do a comprehensive sikur of the times, but the Shulchan Aruch is replete with examples of this. But on one of them, the Rambam's Deya slips into the Shulchan Aruch. And Simon Kufayin Tes Sivav, it says, Misha Nashchei Akrav, someone who gets bit by a scorpion, Mutter Lil Chishalav. You're allowed to do a lechisha on him, like say certain psukim on the wound, Vafilu B'Shabbos, Va'afal Pi, this is the line, She'ein Hadavar Moil Klum, even though it doesn't help at all, it does nothing, Hoylu Mesukanu, Tiru Kadesh Le'Titar V'Daiti Alav. It's the placebo effect. Since he believes, Yana Shaitu got bit by the Akrav, believes that it works, so you're allowed to do whatever little leichash al damaka to cure him, so that he shouldn't think everything's going to be bad. Now over here in Sivav and Kufayin Tes, the Rambam's Deya just slipped in by accident, almost by accident. And over here is where the Gaon is a famous Gaon. The Gaon writes as follows. The Gaon says, Harambam, this is the source for this din. The Kain Kasav B'Pirush HaMishnah L'Perak Dal Davedas Kechavim. Avol Kol Habayim Achrav Chalko Olav, says the Gaon. All the Rishonim who came after him, they argued in him. The Rambam was nachgeschlept after philosophy. The Rambam, he was nachgeschlept nach the school of thought of philosophies. He says these things. But Kala Rishonim, they came after him, he says, it's extremely harsh. The guy is writing. They already banged them over the head. You find when the guy brings a short list of rayas from the Gemara that all these things exist. And he says, yes, I'm asking that they're hard to see with your eyes, and you're not going to bump into these things. He says, but to be them, chas v'shalom, eini ma'amen behem v'lei mehem. He says, avakal advarim hen kipshutam. Ela sheyesh ben pnimius. They have a certain depth of pnimius that's hard to understand and perceive at a basic level. Avaloi pnimius shabalei philosophia shem chitzonium. Ela shabalei emes, which l'chayr means Kabbalistic, deep Kabbalistic meanings that the Gaon says lig and these type of things. So the Gaon strongly critiques the Rambam, and you'll find many, many times the Shulchan Aruch is replete with the ideas of Kishav and Ruach Ra and Sheidim existing, not like the Rambam's Deya. Now, nowhere is it more nagay in our daily life, l'chayra. I don't know how much time to spend this. There's many achronim. We'll let you say quickly. The problem is as follows. That most Rishonim seem to clearly hold not like the Rambam. They say go kipshuta. The Gemara says the Sheidim, there's Kishav, there's Ruach Ra. So there is Sheidim, Ruach Ra, and Kishav. The problem is that as far as anyone in this room can tell, no one's ever bumped into a Shed. No one's ever been damaged by a Kishav or Ruach Ra or thing, right? And we're kilo sophisticated people. And anytime someone does a magic trick, we know it's just a trick. You could go look it up and you'll see it's sleight of hand, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. So it's hard to understand. Mitzad echad, the Rambam is very appealing because the Rambam says it's a fatzaitish thing they used to believe when they didn't understand anything, and today we understand better. So it's easy for us to think. Mitzad sheni, you have the Ramban and Rov Rishonim and Gepaskin the Shulchan Aruch and many, many occurrences that say that there is and that it exists and that it's regular and to be taken at face value. So there's many achronim who say many different things. Some say that there's different kinds, some exist, some don't exist. The Kotzke famously said that until the Rambam there was Ruach Ra. Once the Rambam paskin that it's gone, so it's gone. Because Psak impacts the Metzias. That was the Kotzke's answer. But I once read Yaakov Kamenetsky in his Pirush on Pirkei Avos, and again, this is not comprehensive. There's many more answers. There's many achronim. I'm skirting quickly through the Inyan. The Yaakov Kamenetsky in his Pirush on Pirkei Avos, he has a nice mahalach, and he has this idea that there's Zulu Umazu. Back in the day, when people had a strong realization of Kedusha, when there was a Beis HaMikdash, when there was Nevi'im, when there was a real Gilui Ashchina, and people were able to really see Hashem and to connect with Hashem, the Nisayan to not be an Oved Hashem was much more diminished. It says, hence, there was Kishav back in the day, really Kishav, or Yitzhak Daved Zara, or any one of these things, because it was necessary in order to create the tension that creates Bechira, the Zulu Mazu, that makes it a pull, that makes it a challenge for a person to be Oved Hashem. There has to be both of these kochos in the world. It says, but as over time, as Ruchnius diminished, and people's ability to actually connect and to realize and to see Ruchnius Beinayim in a clear way diminished, so then the need for these other forces to be present in the world to create a counterbalance diminished. So Rabbi Yaakov believes, and this is a nice pshara, that it diminished gradually over time. Meaning you'll find Ameroim strongly because it was very present still. You'll find a little bit later in the Rishonim, you'll find already Machlokes because it was less present. It wasn't so easy to see. It was a little present, a little not present. You'll find in the Shulchan Aruch more Machlokesim, how makbet to be, because again, it took another step back to diminish. It says you'll find the later Achronim, the Gdolei Achronim, the Chavis Yair and the Marshal and many other ones who diminished even further, and they start maching avek these Yisurim in the Shulchan Aruch and saying you don't have to be so machmer, you can always be mekel, you don't have to take it so seriously. You'll find Mitzad Sheni, you'll find the Shulchan Aruch Rav takes it very seriously, and then the Cheshem Mishpat has a whole section about Yisurim that come out of Sheidim and Ruach Ra, all the Yisurim, Shmiras HaGufa Nefesh. So Rabbi Yaakov says it was it diminished slowly over time, it dissipated over time. And he says, when I learned in Kelm, Rabbi Yaakov says, they used to say over that there was a dibik b'tkuf of the Chavetz Chaim, and when it was resolved, the Chavetz Chaim said there'll never be another one. So Kilu, in the Chavetz Chaim's tkuf, Rabbi Yaakov says, was the capstone, that there's not going to be more, begoloi, these kaiches. But Agabanim, the timeline is not important, and exactly when you say it tapers off, or if it could still exist a little bit or not a little bit, we don't have to commit to a set, a set opinion or a set amount on that. The B'chol Ofen, what Rabbi Yaakov is saying is a very fashtenlich thing that's easy to somehow shtim, like our inability to see anything like this b'chosh for hundreds of years already, together with our inability to machavek what the Gedolei Rishonim said and believed and paskin in Shulchan Aruch. So it's like a pshara where it was, but it diminishes. Now, there is one halacha that's very relevant in mamish day-to-day life that has to do with Ruach Ra that every Jew practices every day. And that is the din of Netilas Yadayim when you wake up at night. The Shulchan Aruch and Simad Dalet says that when a person wakes up in the morning, he's supposed to wash his hands. Now, the timing that are given in the Paiskim for Shulchan Aruch for the reason is the Machlekes, the Rashba, and the Rosh. The Rosh says the reason is Yadayim Askani Yisayim. Hands are busy at night, they touch dirty things, and when a person is going to go to daven to do tefillah, a person has to wash his hands. So since automatically it's assumed that if a person slept at night, his hands are tummy, he touched things that he shouldn't have touched, you wash your hands when you wake up in the morning. That's the Rosh. The Rajma says no. The Rajma says when a person wakes up, he's Keber Yechadasha. You slept, yesterday is gone, you wiped it away, you wake up, you're a new being, you're a new person. A new person, part of freshening up for the day is to do Netilas Yadayim, to freshen up, to face the day, which again is a tam. He's not chaylik that has to do with tefillah, but it's a little bit of a different svara. Now the Beis Yosef brings from a Zayar, that the Zayar says a third reason, and really it's Muskar and Rashi a little bit. Rashi never saw the Zayar, but Rashi is maskir this tam a little bit. But in the Zayar it's kibrach, that when a person goes to sleep, his neshama goes back to Shemayim, and therefore he's tayim a certain ramah of death, like Chazal say it's a 60th of death when a person is sleeping. And when the neshama comes back, it's a bechina of tchiyas hamesim. So in order to wipe away the ruach ra that's left on a dead person, Sheidim and ruach ra gravitate towards death. So since there's a certain amount of death that was associated with this person, in order to wash that away, you need to do Netilas Yadayim. Now the nafkamina lahalacha between the Rosh and the Rashba and the Beis Yosef's Tam al Zayar is how important is it to wash it close to your bed. According to the Rashba and the Rosh, that it's out tefillah, you have time, l'chayra. You wake up, you get yourself dressed, you can wander around a little bit. Maybe you don't want to eat or something because your hands are tameh, but maybe you don't want to touch food or whatever, but you have time. You wash your hands and then you go weiter. According to the Beis Yosef, to the Zayar, it's very important that it should be post-haste, as fast as you could do it. You're not trying to walk around with Sheidim and Ruach Ra attached to your hands for any more time than you should. And Memelo, the Shulchan Aruch Paskins, the Mechaber Paskins, that a person should be makbid to wash Netilas Yadayim, take Daled Amos to his bed. As I get Paskins in the Shulchan Aruch, and that's the halacha. Now, the Mishnah Berurah already brings down, later Achayim and Pri Megadim, and the Shvas Yaakov bring down, that Kol Beisei could be called Daled Amos. It could be that in halachic parlance, Daled Amos just means the makam kviyas of a person, the place where a person is settled, and therefore Kol Beisei is the place where you're settled. So Kol Beisei could be Daled Amos. Lamaisa, later place in the Mishnah Berurah already points out that generally the word bayis in halacha refers to room. Bayis is not a house. We think of bayis in our language. Bayis means a house. In halacha sprach, generally, like in benching and shinei makayim and these type of things, bayis means a room. So, l'chayri, even the place that mekel meant you could leave your room. So if you have a bathroom, en suite in your room, no problem, you can make it. But if a person has a bathroom down the hall, again l'chayri should be machmer. And Meil the Mishnah Berurah says taka that a person should be very machmer, not to go more than daled amos without washing Netilas Yadayim, and that's where the minhag of having a negavas shissel by your bed, v'chulu, all starts from. That's yana halacha. Now that halacha has to do with Sheidim and Ruach Ra. It's a halacha that's gebayt on a Zayar that talks about Ruach Ra that comes from Sheidim who are attracted to Mesim, that made it into halacha of Yom Yom, mamish every Jew's everyday halacha. That's capacity like that. So that's probably the most in the gay on a daily basis halacha of Ruach Ra. Now, and with this, let's circle back to the story of the Ger Tzedek. There's a Mesorah that the Anshe Yerushalayim passed down. It's a Mesorah, I'll tell you exactly the chain of command, just so we know exactly who says it. We have it from, there's two places where it's printed. One is B'Shem Reb Shmuel Orbach, one is B'Shem Rabbi Vidyan Even Zal. They both go back to Reb Zalman Orbach, who heard it from Rav Leiv Todris, who heard it from Rav Zalman Baran, in the name of Rav Nachum of Shadik, in the name of Rav Zundel Misalant, who heard it from Rav Chaim Volozhiner, who heard it from the Goyim. This is the Yerushalayim and Mesorah that exists. These are all well-known people. These are all people who learned by each other. This is a very severe, chain of command. This is the Mesorah that's given over B'Shem the Goyim, who said as follows, and there's a few different versions of saying it, who said as follows. He said, a limud schos, for people who are not makbid, not to wash Netilas Yadayim, samach l'mitasam, and they go further than Daled Amos. He says as follows. He says that at the time that the Ger Tzedek was burnt ala moikid, he went up to Shemayim. He says, nafal pachad al kala klipas achitzonius. The klipas achitzonius, which is, I can't tell you, but a kind of shade or ruach ra that exists, that seems to be the one that's attracted to the Yadayim, became fearful. They became weakened. They had to take a back seat. They got knocked. Because of the Mesiras Nefesh of the Ger Tzedek, they got weakened. Another version is they became unable to speak, whatever that means. And because of that, one does not have to be makbid anymore to wash Netilas Yadayim samach l'mitaseh. The ruach ra that the Zayar, that the Beis Yosef brings b'shem the Zayar, that's machayev a person to have a tremendous chaymer to this inyan, like the Mishnah Berurah is taka makbid on, says Rav Shlomo Zalman, based on his chain of his rebbeim back to the Goyin, that at the time of the Ger Tzedek, there became a weakness in this Ruach Ra, and that's why there's makom to be mekel. Now, Grad Reb Zalman himself was always makbid to wash within the Adamas of his bed, and he said this only as a limud schus for people who weren't makbid. But Akavanam, it's brought down in many svarim after that. B'shem Reb Zalman, Reb Zalman used to tell people that Agam the Ikar Din, a person should be machmer, like the Zoyar, to be makbid on the Ruach Ra aspect of Netilas Yadayim. But Hayois, the Ger Tzedek was Moise Nefesh, and at the time of the Mesiras Nefesh of the Ger Tzedek, this Ruach Ra took a hit. Akavanam Alpi, this Messiah that the Goyin said. So Mela, one could be mekel and not wash Netilas Yadayim, Samach L'mitase. Stam, halacha day aspect. Now, just once we're talking about the Ger Tzedek, I just want to make one or two nekudas. So, first of all, there's a big need in the Rishonim if a person's mechuyev to make a bracha on Mesiras Nefesh. You make a bracha of being Mesiras Nefesh. The Messiah has it that the Ger Tzedek made a bracha of al Kedushas Hashem, and the Seyyid Sherish Aveda was hiding in a bush, somewhere near the area, and he answered Amen to this bracha. Now, a second legend, just once we're second Nakuda, is that the Ger Tzedek was obviously burnt, ala Moikid, and all that was left of him was some ashes, and either one or two fingers, depending on which nusach you see. There's different nuschayos. And the Goyin sent someone, we have his name graded, who was clean shaven, didn't have a beard, who could pass as a guy to go collect the ashes and the finger or fingers. And the Goyin asked to be buried in the oil together with the Ger Tzedek. And in Vilna, before the war, the oil was the Goyin together with the Ger Tzedek were buried together. Now, after the war, when the Goyins... and additionally, a tree. We have paintings of this tree. Different Jews made paintings of this tree. A tree sprouted up around the Ger Tzedek's kever that had like an odd trunk that was very wide and then tapered off to the center a little bit so that it looked like legs supporting a body, and the arms spread out like hands, as if like the Ger Tzedek was standing guarding the tomb of the Ger Tzedek. Now, these are all, I don't know, I can't tell you if these are real, they're not real, but we do have like paintings and drawings that different people made 100 years ago already of said tree, outside the grave of the Ger Tzedek. Today, I think if you go to Vilna, were you there? Today, if you go to Vilna, I think in the new tzion of the Goyin, where they moved him to, it's again supposedly the Goyin and the Ger Tzedek together in the tzion. So the Goyin is very wrapped up in the story of the Ger Tzedek. There's a lot of Goyin influence and a lot of Talmidei Goyin Hagra have different outcomes of this. One of them is Lagabi this halach of Ruach Ra. And maybe one day we'll revisit some of the other Isurim of Ruach Ra and Sheidim, etc., Kishuf, Nichosh, alternative medicine. It's worthy of going down this rabbit hole, maybe a different time.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.